Hi guys, we're gonna be decorating the 2021 Halloween cookie kit. I've got everything I need right here, my icing, sprinkles, cookies. I've got a little brush, stick, paper towel, and some scissors. Off camera over here, I have a little fan that's gonna help me speed up time in between steps. That's optional, but if you have one, it does help. So let's go ahead and get started. Go ahead and grab your icing. And if you notice there's any kind of color separation in your icing, just mix it back up with your hand. It's still totally fine, but though the icing sometimes does separate over time. So just mix that between your fingers until it all looks like the same one color, okay? And you're gonna notice that this icing bag has a seam on it. You're gonna find that seam and then you're gonna turn it on the side and push out the tip of the piping bag so it's nice and flat. And then we're gonna take our scissors and we're gonna cut straight across the end of the bag. Small little bit, you can always make it bigger. And then we're gonna find that seam again and we're gonna push down to open up the bag, okay? All right, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take our handy dandy little brush and we are going to brush a layer of the icing onto this pumpkin. And what that's going to do is it's going to be the background color for our jack-o'-lantern face. So all we need to do right now is just do a little squiggle of the purple icing. And we take our brush and we're going to brush just like this. Start with a little bit, add more if you need it. And you just want to cover that midsection where we're gonna be putting the face. I'm gonna add a little bit more. All right. And just brush, brush, brush until you have a nice, even layer of purple through the middle of the pumpkin. All right, and you just go back and forth a couple times until it's nice and smooth and the cookie part is covered and it looks good. All right, you can go a little bit farther. You don't want to go all the way to the edge on this, but you do want a bigger area covered so that you have a lot of room to put your face. You want that room, all right? And because we are brushing this in a thin layer, it's gonna dry kind of quickly. So you want to move kind of quickly, all right? If you grab too much icing, you can just wipe it off on your paper towel. We want that nice, even layer of icing, just like this, all right? I'm gonna go through. It's easy to sit here and do this forever because it's kind of fun. But we need to move on. So make sure as soon as it looks good, we'll give it a break. Okay, so I'm gonna put this cookie in front of my fan. If you don't have a fan, that's totally fine. Just set it off to the side and give it a couple minutes to rest. We're actually gonna do the same thing with our skull right here, but I'm gonna use orange this time. And here's my orange. Same thing we did with the purple. We're gonna find that seam, turn it over, flatten the tip, and cut straight across the top, okay? Open that bag up by pushing on the seam, and there we go. And for my skeleton, or my skull, I want the color behind his eyes and nose to be orange. So I'm gonna use orange here. And same thing, you wanna make sure your brush is clean and it doesn't have any more purple left on it. And you're just gonna brush it in a nice thin layer so it can be our background color for the face. All right, and if you have a better brush at home, you are more than welcome to use that. These little ones are not the best, but they do get the job done. All right, nice and thin. Just keep working through that icing until you have a nice even layer. And that you wanna make sure that the color of the cookie is all covered up. Again, we don't have to go all the way to the edges because the face is just gonna be right there in the middle. We do want it nice, straight lines straight streaks, I guess. All right. And that looks pretty good. And we'll keep it like that. Again, you can change up these colors. You don't have to use the colors that I'm using, but this is just for my example. Okay, while the skull and the pumpkin are drying, I'm going to do the bottom half of the cauldron. And that's gonna require, I think I'm gonna do it oop, there go my sprinkles, hold on. Scoot those over real quick. All right, I'm gonna do my cauldron purple, and it's gonna have a little white highlight bubble on it too. So I'm gonna go ahead and open my white icing, just like that. So it's ready to go. All right, so for my cauldron, we are going to do the bottom half of it, and I'm gonna start here, and I'm gonna drop my icing like a rope around the edges of the cauldron. Just like this. This is called piping. Oops. And I'm gonna skip the little feet at the bottom of the cauldron, just like that. Now I'm gonna go ahead and flood it. Now when we flood it, we're gonna get really close to the cookie, and we're gonna apply a lot more pressure than we were with the piping. So we're going to, we kind of build up the icing. We have this little like bead of icing, and we're gonna work it around the entire area that we just outlined. Just like this. And keep going all the way around. So it's all full. Just like that. I'm gonna take our little stick, and we are going to even out all that icing. We're gonna knock out all those lines, make it look nice and pretty. Now royal icing, it starts drying immediately, but it takes 6 to 8 hours to fully dry. So when these are all done, you're gonna wanna leave them out on your counter to dry. What I'm doing is I'm evening out, I'm leveling out the icing. I'm actually sticking the cookie with my stick, and I'm giving it a little shake, and that'll help the lines go away and give you a nice smooth finish. All right, just like that. Okay, and then we need our little highlight bubble. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pipe a little dot right here while the purple icing is still wet. We're gonna take our little stick. We're gonna pull it straight through the purple icing like that. Clean it off again and do it one more time, just like this. Okay. Looks pretty good. All right. Now, like I said, this icing starts to dry immediately, so if you have any little spots that you want to fix, you need to do them quickly after you flood the cookie, so that, because the icing will start to crust over right away. All right. Okay, we're gonna let that guy dry for a little bit. And while we're doing that, this is our little piece of candy. And what I'm gonna do with this guy is I'm using white. You can use whatever color you'd like. But I'm gonna do white, and then I'm gonna do a design with the orange and purple as well. So here's my white. I'm going to apply gentle pressure, lift up so that we're dropping the icing like a rope as we do our outline around the edge. Okay, there's our piping. And we'll go ahead and flood that in. So now I'm applying way more pressure, and I'm building up that icing. I'm pushing it out to the edges, just like this. Filling that all the way in. All right. And then I'm gonna use my stick to even everything out. All right, been good. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my orange and my purple and I'm gonna do some lines. So I'm gonna do orange right there. And because the white icing is still wet, the orange and purple lines are gonna kind of sink into it, which is actually exactly what we want. But if they don't sink all the way, that's okay too. So here's the purple. Keep going, oops. Just like that. Okay, and then we're gonna take our stick and we're gonna make sure it's clean. We're gonna pull straight through that icing, clean it off again. Then we're gonna go the opposite direction. Over here, go straight up. You can keep going, come down this way. And up. Same thing over here. And down. And one more run going up. All right, so that gives us a cool pattern on the candy piece. There we go, just like that. And see how cute that is? And then we'll give that one a rest too. All right, let's grab our pumpkin. And we are going to use our orange to map out a face for our pumpkin. And now this can be any kind of, I guess it's a jack-o'-lantern really. This can be any kind of face you want. I like to do these half moon eyes. They look a little more spooky. All right, just like this. And then I'm gonna give it a triangle nose. And you'll always wanna make these shapes a little bit bigger than you think you need them because the icing will come in a little bit after you flood. And there's the mouth, just doing some zigzags like that. And I'm gonna go ahead and outline the pumpkin. So remember, we're gonna get right up close to the cookie. We're going to apply gentle pressure, lift up, and drop that icing like a rope all the way around our cookie. Okay, so now instead of filling this in completely, we're gonna flood it in, and we're gonna be very careful around the eyes and the nose and the mouth because we wanna keep those spaces open, right? You've already outlined them, so they've got this little barrier that will keep them open, but you also don't wanna flood too heavily around them so that they cave in, right? All right. Just keep working the icing, applying a good amount of pressure so that you have that bead of icing going around. You don't want to be shy or else the icing is not going to melt into itself, right? Like this. Keep going, almost done. All right, pretty good. And then we take your stick again and you're just gonna push it out to the edges in any spots that you missed. Knock out any lines that are hanging around. Just like that. Any spots that need a little bit of zhuzhing, give them a little wiggle. Okay. All right, and there's our little jack-o'-lantern. He's super duper cute. I love him. Awesome. Okay, we'll go ahead and get our skull and bring him back up here. I'm gonna do white because that's pretty traditional for a skull, but you can do whatever you want. So we're gonna do the same thing that we just did with our pumpkin. We're gonna map out his eyes. Like that, just like when we're piping an outline. Gentle pressure, lift up and drop the icing like a rope, okay? Now I like to make one eye a little bit smaller than the other one just because I think it looks funny. Just like that. And my go-to heart shape for a skull is an upside down heart. So I'm gonna go like this, just like that. Okay, now we'll go ahead and outline the whole thing. Watch as I lift up, I'm dropping that icing. I'm almost stretching it, right? And applying gentle pressure the entire way. You can go clockwise, you can go counterclockwise, whatever feels good to you. And there we go. We'll go ahead and flood it in just like we did with our jack-o'-lantern. Now remember, you want to be gentle around the eyes and the nose because you don't want those areas to close in. All right, you still need a good amount of icing for it to all settle out, but you don't want to close up those areas. All right, almost done. It's a big cookie. Keep going. Remember, this is when we're flooding, we're applying more pressure to the icing bag than when we pipe. When we pipe, we're very gentle. We don't want to break that line, that rope. With flooding, we can be a little bit faster and fill in that space. You don't want to wait too long because the icing starts to dry pretty fast. All right, so we've got our stick here. We're just gonna wiggle that icing around until it's nice and even. And push it out to the edges if you need to. All right. Looking good, Mr. Skeleton. All right. All right, we're gonna give him a break. We're going to come back and give him a mouth when that white has had a chance to dry a little bit. And remember, when we do these short drying times, it's just the icing is crusting over. It's not completely drying. All right. So I'll bring my candy back up front, and these are like the frilly paper parts of the candy. So I'm gonna go ahead and do mine purple. So I'm gonna outline these scallops on the side very gently, and then I'm gonna flood them in. Just like that. Grab my stick, give it a little wiggle. All right, I'm gonna do the same thing to the other side. Oh, that broke. I'm just gonna wipe it off and do it again. The left side is always harder for me. All right, and we'll go ahead and flood that in. Perfect. Give it a little wiggle with the stick. And our candy piece is done. You could throw some sprinkles on it if you wanted to. Now we're gonna work on our cauldron a little bit. I'm gonna use orange for the top part of my cauldron. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to pipe around these bumpy edges up here, which is supposed to be, you know, the top of the cauldron full of potion. And then we'll go ahead and flood right up next to the top of the cauldron. and all the way up here. Clean off that stick again. You don't want to drag purple through the orange. All right. And this doesn't have to be perfect because guess what? We're just going to put sprinkles on top of it. So I'm going to take my sprinkles that are already all on my baking mat for me, and I'm going to drop them into the wet orange icing, just like this. So it looks like it's full of potions or witch's brew or whatever you want to call it. Like that. And you take your stick, and if you have any hanging off the edge, you just kind of pick them back up, pull them over, give them a little tap so that they're all in the icing, because then when the icing dries, these sprinkles will not go anywhere, right? So they're just gonna do that. Bring them up from the side, there we go. Everybody join the party. And what I'm also gonna do is I'm gonna put like a little, I'm gonna make it look like the cauldron is overflowing, right? So I'm gonna start here. I'm just gonna do a little like glob. Like that. Another glob down here. Another one right there. And you can put sprinkles in the glob too. I'm just gonna leave it like that because I like the way it looks. Maybe we'll go a little bit more to the side. There we go. You can, as long as you act quickly, you can keep changing the shape of the glob until it looks the way you like it. All right, very cool. That one's finished. All right, the last thing is our little skull guy. He needs a mouth. I'm gonna use the purple, and we're just gonna pipe one horizontal line this way and 3 horizontal or vertical lines the other way. All right, so we don't want to touch the top of the icing because it's very delicate. It's just barely crusted over. So we're gonna get really close to it though and apply gentle pressure. We're gonna lift up and drop our rope. And then we're gonna do the same thing going upwards. Just like that. And we're finished. There you go. We've got our skull, jack-o'-lantern, witch's cauldron, and a piece of candy. This is your guys' kit, so have fun with it. Do whatever you'd like. Use whatever colors you'd like. Use all the sprinkles. Just have a great time. Remember, these will take 6 to 8 hours to fully dry, so just leave them in open air on the counter, even overnight. They'll be totally fine. Or you can always eat them right away. Hope you guys have fun. Thanks.